Hello and welcome to Hollywood Approved with Stacey and Yael. Each episode is an exploration of taste as we dive into the good, the bad, and the unexpected in TV and movies. Tune in for the celebrity guests. Stay for the surprising recommendations. This is Hollywood Approved. Yay! All the thumbs up. Stacey, how are you doing?
I am well. I am well. It's been a long 24 hours since I've last seen you. But
Yep,
and it's been a long week since our last episode, wink. But
yep.
yes, doing very good.
I'm so excited for our guest today because,
Yes.
for those who know, I'm a big This Is Us fan. And so to talk to somebody who was on This Is Us and who I was just discussing with them how beautiful they are in person, give it up for our guest, Laura Niemi. Hello! Yay!
Woo!
Hi, ladies! Welcome. Before we talk about your current show, The Patient on FX and Hulu, I want to first talk about This Is Us
Yeah.
because I'm such a big fan. I love this show so much. I miss it already. Um, Tell me about being part of such a phenomenon.
Well, when I got cast the first season, I hadn't really seen too much of the show. It was in the beginning stages, but it was already getting buzz, and so it was. I just auditioned for a really, that character wasn't really fleshed out. It was just Jack's mom, I think the character was called. So it was like, okay, well, this looks cool. I mean, it's great writing. There was no doubt about that. So, and then from my first day on set, it was apparent that they had an alchemy of just really amazing, loving cast and crew. It was just such an easygoing set. Very, just a very loving set. Probably mostly because of Dan Fogelman, but also because of the subject matter. I mean, you're playing families, so they just kind of, the chemistry was there, the casting was amazing, and then when the character got fleshed out more and more and more, it was like, ooh, this is exciting. This is so exciting to be able to play, first of all, different decades, right? A woman in different decades,
Right.
but also a time that was very fascinating for me. I was a wee little thing during Vietnam, but I got to kind of live in my grandma's shoes, and she would have loved to have seen the show. It's one of the bittersweet moments that that my grandparents missed this show, so they're no longer with us. But just a dream gig.
Yeah, and you got to work with some amazing people.
Amazing.
Let's talk a little bit about your sons. Um,
I can talk about them forever because I just am such a fan of them as people, but as actors, they're just the most loving, wonderfully talented human beings. Milo and Michael Angarano as well. Just all love, and it was a beautiful chemistry that we all had, and as well as the gentleman, fine actor who plays my husband, Peter Honorati. It really was we really lucked out. We really lucked out on some just people that we would hang with.
One thing
yeah,
that's really interesting about This Is Us, I unfortunately kind of missed the This Is Us train. I watched the first few episodes and I was like, I love this, but I cannot be dehydrated every single week. I was like, I need the saline bag. I need just all this stuff. And so I kind of fell off of it for a little bit. But, you start with the show that has the siblings and their parents, and
Yeah.
then it just grows from there. And there's so many people who got to be a part of really what's become like an iconic show. So it's very, very, like you were saying, your part wasn't really fleshed out, but now she's like an integral part of the show, like up
Right.
till the end. So
Right.
yeah, it's very cool.
Well, and they tackled subject matter that was, I think we're getting better at this, but hard subject matters, but that are timely, that people are
Right.
dealing with, and if we're starting out with a weight issue, but also loss, and that episode that I got to be a part of it towards the end about losing your mom, and just that last line, that Milo says at the end of that episode, I don't have a mom anymore. I still get chills thinking about that, because, I don't think there was a dry eye in the house who ever saw that can't relate to a loss of some
Right.
sort, but a parent or a grandparent, you know what I mean? Just to be a part of that, to have, to be a vehicle for somebody to have a catharsis like that. It's the reason why I'm an actor, to be able to do that. So what a gift.
Yeah, and your new show has a different type of
Very different.
therapy. Different kind of
Woo!
therapy.
Very different.
Oh, I
Let's
watched
talk about
the
the patient.
I was going to say I watched the first 2 episodes of The Patient on Hulu/FX. I watch on Hulu, starring Steve Carell, and I just had the gentleman's name up, Domhnall Gleeson.
Donald Gleason, yeah,
Is he related to Brendan Gleeson?
he is. It's the son.
There we go. I was like, he looks like, huh.
Yeah, good genes.
Right, exactly. But whoa, what a character. And so it opens with so many questions. Tell us from your point of view, Laura, kind of give us a short synopsis of the show and then your character.
Well, it's about a psychiatrist played by the wonderful Steve Carell, who has just lost his wife, who was played by me, and has now found himself kidnapped by a serial killer. So now he's maneuvering in the basement. I can say this, all this stuff, I wasn't able to say all this before because we hadn't aired the 2 episodes. So he's now in the basement of this serial killer's house, and kind of
Trying to figure it all out.
Acting as his therapist.
Mm-hmm. And so your role, you were
My
Barbara.
role is I play, all my scenes are flashback before he left, before I passed away, and just some of the family dynamics that happen. Some of the family dynamics that went on before I passed away. It deals with religion, deals with Judaism, but really it's more about I play a Reform cantor, so I get to sing and play guitar in this series, which is like a dream. And my son has become Orthodox, and so I hope people take away, whether they're Jewish or not, the universal theme of when somebody, I always equate this to politics, of like when somebody's on a different spectrum, of how you can also hold space for somebody who you love, who has a completely opposing opinion as yours, whether it be a son or mother or a friend or whatnot, and and have empathy for them, for that.
Well, we start to see some interesting things with it's Barbara, right? That's her name. Am I making that up?
Oh, you mean who? Candace?
Your character.
Oh,
is it Candace?
No. My character is Beth.
Beth. Okay, I knew it was a B. It's driving me crazy.
I look like a Barbara.
Right.
Barbara.
Barbara Beth, naturally. So Beth, so of course what we learn in the first season that has aired by now, and if you haven't seen it, get to it. But we learned that she basically, there's something else going on there, and we learned that he gets kidnapped, and the guy tells him, and I think this is in the trailer too, but he said, I went to 3 therapists and I chose you. And so big part of the mystery is why him, and he specifies, I went to 3 Jewish therapists and I chose you. So it's like, well, why Jewish, why him? And
Yeah.
then what really happened to Beth? What's really the deal with Beth? So you kind of you get to play this really kind of fun, like aloofy kind of thing. Was that kind of in the back of your mind while you were playing the role, or were you just like hoping that the editors would get it all right at the end of the day?
You never really, as an actor, you can never really play that. You know, you just have to play the scene as written. And so, you know, each of the scenes that I was in were as written. Obviously, I don't know what happens in the future, as we none of us do. But in now is when it's playing out in real time for me, because now I can't give anything. You know, I can't answer that because, you know, we're going to see this unfold, and all those are like the best kind of questions, right? For somebody who's watching a psychological thriller, you know, we'll see. We'll see. You know, that's what I love about the genre. This is the genre that my husband and I, this is the only one that we agree on, because I'm not a huge sci-fi person, although now, having said that, now I need to get on a sci-fi show. But thrillers are so great because of that exact reason. You kind of talk about it in the next episode. It's, you know, it's fodder for, you know, conversation for next week of what's going to happen. We always love this. I just love this genre. And so it's exciting to be a part of it.
Well, I want to talk a little bit more about The Patient, but I guess it's the answer to the first question of what is the last thing you watched. So let's keep going with this. I want to understand, for those of us who are scaredy cats, what is the best way to consume this show?
Well, I love that they did it bite size. I mean, this is kind of the new thing post pandemic that I feel like is right up my alley with my attention span of these, you know, half an hour segments. I think that's going to be the new way shows go now, because it's just, that's what our attention span has become.
Yeah.
Social media and TikTok, you know, like it's a lot, right? So I would piecemeal it once a week. I would save the second one till next week then. And then you know, just don't get on Facebook or any social media when the finale airs, and you'll be caught up the following week. So you're doing one a week.
Good. That's good advice. I really love the way that you've picked some very interesting dramatic roles. You're saying that next you want to be on a sci-fi series. What is it that you look for when you're picking a role?
Well, I will say, you know, I love to, it's more about the genre for me than anything else. You know, you get on a drama for too long. I mean, you can't help but bring that home as an actor. You just can't, you know? I mean, poor Steve and Dom, they were down in a basement, you know, shooting this. It's like, that's, you know, you do that for 14 hours a day, it's going to affect you in some way, right? And you know, when you're on a comedy for 14 hours a day, that's going to do something to you too, right? So for me, I like to mix it up. I like to mix up my genres. So like, you know, I got off of This Is Us. I went into Stranger Things, which was, I mean, that is sci-fi. Hello, you know, right? And playing a totally different character, but just, you know.
I was going to say, who were you on Stranger Things?
I was Mrs. Gracie. I was Eleven's teacher in the first episode.
There we go. Gotcha.
Glorious wig. And then, you know.
You are such a chameleon. Just, we were talking about earlier, the way that they make you look on This Is Us versus the way that you are in person versus the way you are in The Patient versus the way you are in Stranger Things. You really just are so chameleon-like. I can't think of the word I'm looking for.
I have to say that for me, that's a huge compliment. That's a huge compliment. So thank you, because that's the key, right? You know, once you get to that, I love this sweet spot that I'm able to do that, you know?
Yeah.
But now to jump into this thriller, I mean, during the pandemic, I did a two-hander site-specific comedy that was written by a Second City writer that was fantastic. And we did it poolside overlooking Mulholland at this mansion up in Mulholland. So I got my comedy fix in. So, you know, after this, we'll see. I just finished the show. I can't really announce it yet, but again, just jumping genres, and so that's really important to me. Obviously, working with great people as well, and on the page if it's a good story.
Yeah. Well, Stacey, what is the last thing that you watched?
Ooh, what is the last thing I watched? Um, oh, Intersection, the series. So if you recall,
Ooh, I haven't seen that.
yes, it's great. And last week we got to speak with Jacinta, who is one of the stars of the show. Basically, it is a neighborhood in Atlanta that is getting gentrified, and basically the stories of the people who are being displaced, the stories of the people who are doing the displacing, and everything kind of comes together. It's 6 episodes. They're like 10 minutes each. It goes by so fast, but it's so satisfying. And they hit every beat so well. It's on YouTube, and just do a search at Intersection Series, and then it'll come right up for you.
That sounds fantastic.
It's so good. Highly
And
recommend it.
it's Emmy nominated.
Oh,
So.
yes, Emmy nominated.
Not know that. Oh, now I really.
The last thing that I watched was the Sandman series on Netflix. I grew up hanging out with theater kids, and theater kids seem to be very into the Sandman series, the like books. So
Neil Gaiman in general.
yeah. So like I was not familiar with the story. I knew of the characters because again, theater kids. But I saw the series blind with no like preconceived ideas of what the story should be or how the characters should be or anything like that. And it was interesting. I have some problems with it, just pacing and narrative wise. But I imagine the books are better and great, as usually that is how the TV movie
It's a
world
graphic
works.
novel, right?
Yes. I enjoyed it. Have either of you seen it or read the
No, as a matter of fact, I'd never even heard of it. So this is all new, interesting for me. Both of you have intrigued me on these shows. I'm going to have to watch them.
So did you watch American Gods?
I saw, I believe, the first season.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Neil Gaiman is that's kind of his thing. There's Neverwhere, there's another one, and he's huge in Britain, huge in England, and so they do a lot of like radio plays of his books. So Good Omens is another Neil Gaiman. And so my only thing about Sandman is that there were times where it like Neil Gaimaned it up, and the whole thing about like, yes, we're gonna fight with love. It's like, okay, Neil. Okay, sweetness. Like, yes, I get it. Okay. But overall, for being what it is exactly what it's supposed to be. And there is a bonus episode added to the end, and people are like, what is this? And I'm like, this is 100%. It fits. This is exactly what it's supposed to be. And I like giving chances to things that are experimental like that, and that show a very specific point of view, because those are the things that can often go overlooked, or it gets checked to death with studio notes, And so I appreciate it. Probably a little more than I enjoyed it, but there were parts I really, really liked. And then there were parts where I'm like, all right, Neely boy, let's get to the point. So yeah, it was interesting. It was definitely an experience, but one that I would recommend. I say check it out.
Yeah,
Nice.
I think my problem with it was, have you seen a series of unfortunate events series on Netflix with Neil Patrick Harris?
I haven't.
Laura? Okay.
No.
So
Lemony Snicket.
yeah, those stories in the Netflix series were 2-episode stories, like part one, part two, part one, part two, part one, part two. And so like the entire backdrop and characters and everything changed with each of the parts. And this felt like the same thing, but they didn't do it intentionally, because it felt like the first part was, all right, we have these 3 MacGuffins and now we have to go get them. And then they got them and they were like, moving on. So now we have this other guy, we have to do this thing. Moving on. Okay, now we have this girl and she's gonna end the world. And we solved it. I was like, wait a second.
Yeah.
Is it 3 mini stories, or is it supposed to be one continuous story?
Right.
Yeah. It was about the journey. It was not about the destination. And that's a big Neil Gaiman thing too. It's all about the journey and getting there and not necessarily what happens at the end. That's why so many people they'll kind of complain like, oh, this wasn't a satisfying end, but it was like, well, it was never about the end, you know. So it's
I
it's
see.
one of those things where you're just like, all right.
Oh, now I really have to see it.
Oh,
Definitely
you
watch Good Omens. Good Omens was
Good
fantastic. They
Omens
did a
was
great
great.
job with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You, by the end of the show, Laura, you're gonna have a list.
Yes. Yeah.
My God. There's
Well,
more? Oh my
yeah,
God.
we're that's the first question. The second question is, what is a show or movie you just discovered?
Oh, 5 Days at Memorial.
Yeah, people are discovering this.
Oh
Woo.
my God, it is riveting. I mean, I'm just
It's frustrating in all the ways that that time was frustrating, and even more looking at it, you know, they say hindsight is 2020. It's just like, you know, all these people are like, well, why won't you do something? And it's like the earth rained on you and the city failed you. Like, I don't, what is there to do? And so it was so interesting seeing the way that everything played out and how they kind of separated this into 5 days so you could really kind of feel what was going on with each person within each of those days.
I'd be interested to know if there was a podcast to this one after I finished watching it, because, you guys remember Chernobyl?
Oh,
Mhm.
yeah.
So how accurate they were. I'm actually
Mhm.
watching, also in tandem, I'm watching that again for just the fact that everything was meticulously accurate.
Mhm.
So I'm curious to know if they had, that kind of accuracy behind this project, because that's a big
Well,
question I have.
I know a lot of this was based on the book, and of course, that is its own account. So, you know, it's more about a person's perspective. But one thing they did that was great was they interspliced a bunch of the footage during that time into the series, and it kind of fit together
Yes.
seamlessly, which is
Right.
wild.
Wild.
I haven't watched it because it seems sad, and I am going to be really honest. After This Is Us, which my roommate referred to as the crying show, he'd be like, "Oh,
Yeah.
you're going to watch the crying show," and he wasn't allowed to be near me when I watched it, so that I
Right.
could just let it out.
Right.
But so I'm not ready for a new crying show.
I hear you.
So
I'm watching Under the Banner of Heaven currently, and I had to wait to watch it because of that. I was just like, at that time, I was like, no, I can't deal with this. And now I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, you need to mix it up. You definitely need to mix it up. I need to get on a comedy so that we could be talking about this comedy that I'm just on right now, so that you can have some levity.
There we go.
I mean, The Patient is in my opinion is more scary than sad. So
Yeah,
That's true.
that's true. That's true. And it has
Yeah.
a little bit of humor. A
Yeah.
little bit.
Right. Stacey, what is a show or movie you just discovered?
So, a show that I just The Bear. So again, we were kind of talking about this last week. I'd seen the ads. I knew very, very small, very little about what it was about. But then I got more of a synopsis and I watched the trailer and I was like, okay, let's do it. Let's go and check this out. So after I get done with Banner of Heaven, that's going to be my next one.
It's
Laura?
so good. I mean, here's the thing. Years ago, I knew that FX was where I live. I mean, this FX
Really?
is my it's my home, man. It just everything they do, I'm just always nodding my head. I'm always like, this is amazing. This is amazing. And not to say that network and whatnot, but it's just they have my sensibility. So, I'd let everybody know around me, my team, that, FX, it's FX. And so this is the third FX project I've worked on. I worked on It's Always Sunny. What a great show. I worked on Justified. And
Oh,
now I've worked on this, and it's like, oh my God, The Bear, hello. Unbelievable.
check it out. I can't
Oh,
wait.
It's so good. Yael, have you seen it?
I have not, and I explained last time that the main guy was in an episode of SVU, and it's killed him for me, and I cannot watch him in this. I'm
Oh,
sorry,
Jeremy
no.
Allen White was a
Philia.
pyrophiliac. There you go. I
He
was
got
like,
aroused by fire, and I just couldn't.
No.
The scene. I'm gonna just tell everybody the scene. Stabler lights a trash can on fire in front of him, and then you watch him finish while looking at the fire. And now I cannot look at him,
Oh, yeah.
so I will
but
not be
only
watching
Jeremy
the bear.
Allen White. There are few people that will do that and do it well.
Yeah.
And he is one of those people that's like, I got this.
So I'm sorry to the rest of the cast of The Bear. I will not be watching that show.
So good.
Laura, I have a very small justified adjacent joke.
Okay.
What do you call someone who doesn't like Timothy Oliphant?
What?
Irrelevant.
That is so ridiculous. That is
But it's so true. It's true.
Oh my God.
Anyone who doesn't like Timothy Oliphant is irrelevant.
No, this is the best. Oh my God. I love that
I
they're
love
bringing him back. They're bringing him back. Well, the character back.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, is it like a prequel thing?
Wait, no. Is it a prequel thing? I thought that they were.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I was just said, don't get me telling tales out of school.
We don't know nothing.
We won't get you in any trouble today.
I'm
But
gonna move us on.
check your DMs.
The show that I just discovered is Search Party.
Oh.
I guess I was late to this search party.
Yes, you were. It's amazing. How far are you in?
I binged the whole thing.
Okay.
About. I don't know if you know this about me. I binge things very quickly and do not sleep or eat. So, yeah, Laura gets
Like
me.
takeout.
So, here's what I'll say. It's not necessarily my type of humor. I also don't like. I discovered recently that I tend to not like shows where every character is, in my words, an asshole.
Yeah.
And I think that this show is that. Like, I don't like any of them.
Right.
And I find that
But
to be a
good.
problem.
That means that you're probably not a bad person.
Yes, but I struggle to watch a show when I when I think all the characters suck.
They need to have a, save the cat moment,
Yes.
Well, no, they actually don't. And so I'm so glad that you brought this up, Yael, because this was me and Sunny. And this was me in the first 2 seasons of Search Party.
Mhm.
After season 1, I stopped watching. I was like, these people are terrible and I don't care. And then for some reason, there was someone that was going to guest star season 2. And I was like, no. I watched a few episodes. I was like, nah. But then Shalita Grant, my God, that woman, my heart, I adore her. She played Dory's lawyer. The young kind of neophyte lawyer. Amazing. Completely changed the game. And I think once that happened, it reset the tone for me.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, they're not redeemable. They're not supposed to be. And let me just enjoy them being idiots. And I think that's kind of the same thing happened with Sunny for me too. I was like, they treat each other terribly and they're always mean to each other. And I like cricket. Just all this stuff. And then but I really like the musical episodes, but I was just like, I can't with some of these. But once you start kind of understanding like, oh, this is what they're going for, then it helps to kind of reset. Because then after that, the rest of Search Party, I was on board. And that final season was crazy, but I lived for it.
I will say it's where it ends versus where it begins.
Exactly. It's
Very
wild.
different.
It's fat. I don't even know how we got there, and I support it. Like, as much as I hate everyone, I don't know how, because
That's
you get
my opinion.
the end of this, you like get to the last episode and you go, are you kidding me?
Well, they have those podcasts where it's like they watch the first episode and the last episode, and then they review the series as a whole. And I'm like, if you did that with this, you would be so confused. You would have no clue what to
Right.
talk about. It is wild. It's great though. Were you a fan of The State, the comedy troupe?
No.
Michael Ian Black and David Wayne, Ken Marino. They were very like alt 90s comedies. So you had
Yes.
kind of like the Kids in the Hall, and then afterwards you had The
Yeah.
State, which was more, US based.
Right.
And so they spread up Reno 911, one of my things that I'm
Oh,
going to say
okay.
a little later. Exactly. And so Michael Showalter, he
Mhm.
is from that troupe, and so is Michael Ian Black. And but Michael Showalter was a writer and director on Search Party. And so it has a lot of those state sensibilities. And I was just like, this is my home. I love it.
All
Gotta
right.
watch that too.
Well,
It's great. Search Party. Oh, so good.
Laura, what is a show or movie you were obsessed with growing up?
Valley Girl, Nick Cage. Nick Cage, and a little fun fact. That was filmed in my neighborhood where I went to high school. And some of those party scenes were at a high school friend, Jordy Linka's house. That was all filmed there.
Fun.
So that was like
Wow.
when I was
Wild.
growing up. So a lot of those, so it's just,
I would say, so are you in the background in any of these?
no. Oh, that would have been,
We just see Laura like,
oh my God, I would have been so all about it, but no.
What if that was the secrets to why you were obsessed with this? Because you were secretly in the background and you didn't know
right.
Because there's me in it. Yeah. No, I just love that movie so much. So much.
When
What
you
about
said
you?
Valley Girl, I heard Party Girl, and so I got very excited. I'm like, wait, no, that's a different movie. That one has Parker Posey, and it's like 90s all kind of thing. So yeah. But Valley Girl, very influential on like a lot of people. So a lot of movies you saw after that were influenced by Valley Girl.
Honestly, that movie, having not seen it, I still feel like I know all about it because
Right.
all of the catchphrases and the slang and when I moved to LA, everyone was like, "Oh, you're gonna be a Valley Girl." Like it's still a thing.
Ubiquitous.
Yeah.
Yeah, and those were all places that I hung out at. The country club and all the clubs that you saw there and the nightclubs. And I loved the Plimsolls, which did some of the music. They were the live band that played in one of the, so that was all like, these were all my hangs. So, and I was a Valley Girl, as much as I like to claim like I wasn't, I was.
We're going to find a high school picture of you, and then we'll find someone to like edit it in so you're in the background of the movie.
God, that would be amazing.
Yes, right?
I need to do a movie with Nick Cage. I'm going to put that into the world.
Yes, put it on the list. Let's do it. Manifest.
All right, Stacey, what about you? What is a show or movie you were obsessed with growing up?
Lost. Lost. Lost.
Really?
Oh, I was obsessed. I hung with this show all the way. Finally, there was like the whole time you're like, is it sci-fi? Is it supernatural? What's going on? And then literally you get to an episode where he cranks a wheel and turns back time, and you're just like, okay, so this is where we are now. And I'm like, okay, I'm still on board. I like the end. I had a good time. I loved Lost. It was an investment. And season 2, when they brought on Nikki and Paolo, and this is one of the reasons I love it. And people were like, no, we don't like them. And he was like, all right, we're gonna kill them off. And like literally killed these characters up. But it was one of the first shows that started to think about online engagement. It wasn't full in it. It wasn't like Teen Wolf, like full in it yet, but it was very close to understanding, oh, there's a group of people online that interact with the show online, which just wasn't a thing back then. And so it was very new in that way. And because we had these areas, it was TWAP, Television Without Pity. We used to go on the forums and we had all these theories and discuss. And I did
Yeah.
recaps. It's great. So good.
Wow.
And it changed the landscape of television.
yeah.
They were like the first ones on the block to do that, you know?
Yep.
Yeah. I use Lost as an example of what not to do. I use it all the time as the example of why I prefer my sci-fi from Canada, because Lost, here's why. Lost, like Pretty Little Liars, both these shows had a mystery, and we're like, we're
Dare
gonna figure
you.
it out. We're gonna figure it out as we go. Whereas Canadian sci-fi goes, this is how it's going to end, and we're going to build to that. We're going to set these things in place and build to where we're going. Lost was like, I don't know, we'll figure it out. And then they figured it out, and people were upset. Pretty Little Liars was like, who's A? I don't know. Someday we'll know.
Well, yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. Lost is, I use Lost all the time as an example of why I don't like J.J. Abrams stuff and why I don't like American sci-fi. So I love that you love it.
Hilarious. That is fantastic. My heart burns for the PLL comparison.
I know. I was like, sorry.
Original Sins isn't that bad. I will say that.
It's a whole different conversation.
I will say this: you will be very satisfied with the ending of The Patient.
Wonderful.
If you're that type of viewer, I think you'll be very satisfied with the end of The Patient. These writers are very mindful writers. I mean, they're just I mean, the Americans, they're just incredibly talented writers.
I think that
they're meticulous.
One of the things Lost did was it kind of forced everyone else to go, oh, we can't not know where we're going.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's also right now it's the day and age of the limited series, right?
Yes.
For that exact reason. And you can just you have that satisfying ending or provocative ending or whatever. But you do have like one of the things that's so great about This Is Us is that Dan Fogelman, had foresight.
Yep.
Years ago was taping that finale years and years ago, which tells you the kind of writer he is.
A show or movie that I was obsessed with growing up was The Nanny.
Yes.
Oh, I love The Nanny.
Working in a bridal shop in Smashing Queens when it
Thank
boyfriend
you.
kicked her out of one of the smashing scenes.
Yeah.
Excellent theme song.
So I have been rewatching it recently, and I have come to a horrifying realization that I am a CC.
Oh no! Oh. Reject the CCL. Reject the CC.
I know, and the fact that you both understand how horrifying that is.
But I once listened to a podcast that was like had a whole rant about how Cece was really like victimized, and she had her man and she all this stuff, and then this lady from Queens comes in all loud and upending her world, and I was like, okay, Cece.
I love that you both have seen it and know it well enough.
Of course. Who doesn't watch A Nanny? Who didn't watch A Nanny? The roommate. Best, Fran Drescher. My roommate back
out.
I had a roommate who had done a movie with her, and so I wanted to surprise him with a surprise party. And so I guess I didn't at the time. I don't know. Maybe I didn't know her last name or whatnot, but maybe it was just under Fran. So I just called, to let her know about the surprise party I was going to have. Hello, just the voice. It was like, oh shit, this is Fran Drescher.
Oh my goodness!
Party, which I was so bummed about, but Weird Al Yankovic did.
That's awesome.
Wow, what a cool
He's such
party.
a cool guy.
And that's the end of my story.
I'm sorry. I'm just so jealous of this party that almost had Fran, but definitely had Weird Al. That's very cool. The Nanny is a show that I watched in my house and that my family got to enjoy together. And although I could never understand, like there were things that I never understood because I don't relate to that like New York Jewish thing. It was still very relatable in other ways, especially in a Jewish household. But one thing I never understood, and I really kind of wish I did, is why and how sentences start with the word meanwhile. Like in the middle of it, like you're talking to someone, she go, meanwhile, this happened.
You
Why do
need
I
a good
not say that?
transition,
It's so beautiful. Why is that not a thing we say?
right? Meanwhile.
Meanwhile, I don't know why. Anyway, all right. Our last question is: what is a show or movie that you own? Which apparently is a challenging question for some people. Laura, what is a show or movie you own?
Oh, uh, Joe Wright's version of Pride and Prejudice. Oh my God! I have watched that show so many times.
It's good times. She's great. Pride and Prejudice, I go back and forth. It depends on the adaptation, but that one was definitely a worthy adaptation.
Joe Wright is one of my favorite directors. Oh my God. I just absolutely love his directing. But yeah, my husband would he could hear it. He could hear the dialogue. He knows it. He can recite it from
Yes.
a different room. He's like, oh, she's having a day. She's having a day.
Oh.
She's on Pride and Prejudice.
I love that.
What about you?
Stacey, what is a show or movie you own?
Oh, so keeping with my whole search party into Michael Showalter, so there was a comedy troupe called Stella, and it was David Wayne, Michael Showalter, and Michael Ian Black, and it was just basically a bunch of their sketches kind of like put into a narrative, and every now and again like Sam Rockwell would show up and Edward Norton would show up, and like just they had these random like people that would just get involved. It was the craziest humor. A lot of it makes no sense, but it still kept me in stitches. And then I'm a person that will like, I think one of my answers on here was like the DVD commentary for Tropic Thunder. Say with this one, this DVD commentary, I will watch all the episodes, then I'll watch them again with the DVD commentary, and it is great. So yeah, I love it. It's so good.
Oh my God. That is hilarious.
It's great. I'm telling you.
That's so funny. I actually own a lot of DVDs and VHS tapes, and continue to add more to my collection because I don't know why I need to physically own things. But one of the things that recently I was like, I should rewatch this. And then I went, oh, I own this. I can rewatch this at any time. And it's Saved, which stars Mandy Moore, Jenna Malone, Macaulay Culkin, Eva Murray, Patrick Fugit.
I've never even heard about it.
Really? Oh yeah.
How did I not know this? Mandy's in it.
So not only is she in it, there's one of the best parts in the trailer and in the movie is, so the story is Jenna Malone's character. They all go to a Christian high school and she gets pregnant, and Mandy is the like main good Christian girl. And so Jenna Malone's character says something and Mandy shouts, I am filled with Christ's love, and then throws a Bible at her.
Yes.
And it's so funny. And when Mandy was at the HCA TV Awards, I almost wanted to ask her if anyone has ever shouted, I am filled with Christ's love, and thrown a Bible at her. But I didn't.
Oh, you should have. I would have asked her if I had thought of it. She was very pregnant though. So yeah, maybe let's not throw anything at her. But
oh my God.
It's a great movie.
I'm going to say I haven't seen it in years, so I cannot guarantee that it holds up.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Well, I think it's kind of in that same realm as like, But I'm a Cheerleader. You know, it's very much like there are things that are provocative for provocative sake, and it's not necessarily about it holding up, but it stands within the realm of the movie. And so I think most of the humor was kind of that.
Right.
I hope so. It's one of those things that I loved it so much. Like I saw it in theaters, and then I bought it, and then I made all my friends.
Oh, I got to see that one now too. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Add it to the list.
You know what, Laura? I'm going to hand you my DVD. You can watch it.
You just go ahead and send me a list after this show.
Well, you know, it's funny because you're like, why do we buy DVDs? But so recently, this is semi-related, but this also happens with movies I have found.
Yeah.
With Beyonce, when she released Renaissance, she went back and edited something out because there was like a claim to some copyright thing. And so for people who bought it, now they have this streamed version that cuts out part of the song, whereas the people who have the vinyl or who have the disc, have that original part intact. And
Mhm.
so it's like, I think about that all the time because I'm like, what if I get a movie where, they stop streaming or it's just not available? And that's what kind of upsets me now. It's like you have a bunch of movies that are being released on streaming. And I'm like, is this going to get a Blu-ray? Like, are we going to get it? So it's interesting. We'll see.
I mean, that's actually one of the reasons I continue to add. My Amazon wish list is like full of DVDs, and people are like, why do you want DVDs? Because some things aren't available to stream.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Some things are very old. Some shows lasted one season, got canceled, and no one wants to put them on their streaming service.
Mm-hmm.
But I own Saved, and I'm very happy about it. Well, thank you, Laura, so much for joining
Yeah,
us.
My
This was
pleasure.
so fun.
You ladies are
Um,
fantastic.
Thank you. Remind everyone where they can watch The Patient.
The Patient is on Tuesdays on Hulu, on FX, but you can watch it on Hulu.
FX on Hulu. And you are on social media if people want to keep up with you. Where are you at?
I'm mostly active on Instagram at Laura Niemi. See how it's spelled? LauraNiemi. That's how I
Love it.
most. I can't keep up with all of it. It's all a lot. You know what I mean? So I try to do a little Insta. I like Insta.
There you go. Some
Perfect.
stories, some highlights.
Perfect. Before we go, we want to remind you that the Hollywood Critics Association has a lot of amazing content coming out every week, including many after shows, Pop Council on Mondays, this show on Tuesdays, and so much more. Until next time, Stacey, where are you on the internet and what are you up to these days?
Sticky Keys on Instagram and Twitter, STICKYKEYS. And I am doing TIFF-tings, gonna be at TIFF and running around causing a ruckus. So very excited.
Fun.
Perfect. I am everywhere at Yael Tygiel. That is YAELTYGIEL. Keep up with me there to see what I'm up to. We'll see you